Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where last episode we had a successful run on our probe. I mean, I say it was successful. It was successful in that we located a landing site for our mission. It was not successful in that it got to the ground in one piece. We don't necessarily expect, of course, that it gets to the ground in one piece, but we did learn that that engine and fuel tank makes a fantastic heat shield, apparently. Now, that may have something to do with the actual mass of it, and we're going to test that. For right now, we're just going to deploy these heat shields to 100 degrees so that we can grab this decoupler. And again, I'm going to set their deploy angle around 10 degrees. We've had some major heating issues on these air brakes. We're not shocked by this, in all honesty. I'm going to quick save in case we have any weird issues here. And we're just going to decouple that. Ooh, that's weird, all right. That's weird, all right. Okay. Let's see about retracting these. Well, this is exciting. This is slightly bizarre. I mean, we knew that there would likely be some issues, right? Let's extend that and just see if we can break this free. Maybe we can use our reaction wheel to break free? No? It's like we're still connected to the ship here. In a really weird way. Okay. Yeah, we're still connected to the ship here. Can we break this free? I think it's because I left these extended. There we go. Okay, we're good. Fantastic. So now we're going to want to extend these lads, and we're going to head over to surface retrograde. That was only slightly awkward. And I think at this point we are going to warp over to here, although I do want to switch back to this guy and make sure that we didn't alter our trajectory too much. No, we're good. Okay, fantastic. How's our trajectory here? That looks fine. Let's go ahead and warp over here. We want to go over into daylight or very close to it. And we're going to hop over to retrograde. And let's go ahead and bleed off this speed for a moment here, until we are about having a periapsis of 80 kilometers, I think. So let's bring our periapsis on down to 80 kilometers. We just want to barely dip in, and we will save the rest of our fuel. We're not going to be ditching this. In fact, we're going to completely disregard this decoupler, and we're going to use this as like a secondary heat shield. It's going to be awkward, and once we start seeing some heating, then we'll burn the rest of this fuel, but we don't expect too much delta V from this in the atmosphere, if I'm honest. Okay, so let's see if we can get our splashdown mission completed. That's what we are currently looking to do here. We need to splash down into the oceans of Eve. That's all we need to do. So we are just going to warp towards the atmospheric entry. We don't have any problem holding attitude, so that's fine. We'll just position ourselves at surface, and we'll just have these air brakes ready to go. We're trying this at 10 degrees and seeing just how much that slows us down. Although one thing we could do is we could have these be at like full extension as we're in these upper portions of the atmosphere, and as we start seeing more heating, we could reduce their angle, and that's something I think I'm going to try. The first thing I want to do, though, the very first thing, is that I want to make sure that we burn off this fuel. So we're just sitting at maximum extension of our air brakes, and we're just going to slowly bring those down as we start to see some heating. So we are not going to be exiting this atmosphere, it would appear. We're not shocked by this. This is exactly what we expect, and we're just trying to see if we can get one of these probes to survive re-entry right now and land splashed down in the ocean. So we're just trying to bleed off as much velocity as possible in these upper atmospheres, and as we start seeing heating issues, then we will lower our deployment angle. That should be absolutely fine. We're definitely seeing a fair amount of drag right now, and that is completely okay. I'm not going to bother with any rotation this time. That did help previously, I believe, but this time we're just going to work with this deploy angle. So that'll be okay. We are decelerating very slowly, but we are decelerating, and that's a good thing to see right now. We've already found our landing site, and that's absolutely wonderful. As to how we're going to achieve getting there, well, that's going to be interesting to be sure, but we'll probably just have to try to fly there. Like, we'll kill our horizontal velocity basically over that, and then try to land at that location, I think. Okay. We're starting to see some temperature issues. Let's burn off this fuel. Excellent. And I'm waiting at this point for those temperature gauges to continue to increase before we drop this down to, say, 90 degrees. We're looking reasonably okay for now. You can see our speed is dropping pretty dramatically. And we'll drop this down to 90 quite soon, or approximately 90. I think after this burn, or I'm doing it now, actually. Okay, they're starting to glow. I'm bringing it down to 80. $70. 56. I'm just watching those temperature gauges. We've burned out our fuel. Let's bring that down to 22. We are currently accelerating. That's reasonably okay. What happens if we retract these? Oh, we have no heating issues if we retract them. That completely goes away. Fascinating. We're going to try it at 10 degrees for right now. I want to actually... Should we just try it like this? With them completely not extended at this point? We know our terminal velocity is quite low. So what happens if we just enter like this? Do they burn off during re-entry? That's what I want to know. Let's try this. And then we can try deploying them at like full deployment after we've bled most of our speed off. This is going to be a very interesting experiment, and I don't mind expending these at this point. Now that we've found a safe landing location, I'm quite content with this. And just experimenting with some entry and learning how this atmosphere works a little bit more. We're definitely seeing some heating issues here. We could try rotation. We're slowing down, but not very quickly currently. At this point, our air brakes, if they were extended, would certainly be burning off. We're seeing some overheat on our engine. This is not surprising. As I said, we're using this as a secondary heat shield. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if our air brakes did, in fact, begin to burn off. Particularly this one. But this is just checking to see how well this is going to work. Yeah, there goes that one. I'm not shocked. These others are burning off as well. Okay, good to know, good to know. And that is the whole vessel gone. Well, not quite the whole vessel. The heat shield still exists. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Okay, so I'm going to tick this forward here at full physics warp, and we'll see how exactly... I don't think this is going to survive the landing, in all honesty, but that gave me some very interesting information. As I said, I'm mostly just experimenting with these. We have successfully landed, kind of, at the correct location that we want to land at. So let's just go ahead and bring this on down. And we know that we need to bleed quite a lot of additional speed. That's okay. We can definitely do that. So this might actually survive re-entry. Might survive the landing. But I don't think it will. I think terminal velocity for this is like 50-something degrees. So that's going to be very interesting. I do wish that we could just abort this flight at this point. It's kind of a waste of time, but there's no way in the game to do it. We just have to ride it out till the end. As I said, I'm completely okay with this flight happening the way it is. If this survives the splashdown, great, but I don't think it will. We already know our landing site, and that's absolutely wonderful. Or we know of a decent landing site, and we have a marker on it. So it should be fine. And we'll just go ahead and bring this on down. We're going to pass through this thickest portion of the atmosphere momentarily here. And there we go. I'm not sure if what we're looking at here. This may be additional atmosphere. Nope, that is actually liquid, I believe. Don't know what liquid. Yeah, that's definitely liquid. So we're currently coming down at about 42 meters per second. Again, I don't expect this heat shield to survive. If it does, by some miracle, then we will get this contract complete. And that would be a full success of our mission at that point. Which would be slightly remarkable, to be sure. But I don't think this survives. Sploosh. Catastrophic failure? Pretty sure. Well, pretty sure we've got nothing here. Vessel is destroyed. Yeah. That's what we expected. Okay, there we go. So we'll hop back to the tracking station, and let's just try a few more re-entries here. Now, we will hop back to the probe launcher, and we've got time for probably one more here in this particular episode. I'm going to keep trying this. I want to get one of these to survive re-entry. I feel like that's fairly important to me. And we're just going to grab this decoupler. There we go. And we will unextend these. Perfect. And off it goes. Wonderful. And we will extend that at 100 degrees. Fantastic. We'll flop over to retrograde. And let's actually try this higher up. So, I'm going to burn this right now. And we're going to set our periapsis at 85 this time. Okay. Next, we will go ahead and warp. Wonderful. And we're just trying this at the absolute maximum. Well, not necessarily the absolute maximum, but we're trying this far less horribly. We were going for like 80 kilometers before. This time we're trying 85. So I'm going to quick save this, and then we're going to physics warp this to make this go a little bit quicker. Hello, sun. Excellent. Another thing we could try, because I believe there's heating from the sun. Another thing we could try is going in at night. That may be an option. Okay, so we've got our apoapsis down inside the atmosphere at this point. That's great. And we're going to continue running this at maximal air brakes. The other thing that, of course, we're probably going to want on our actual manned mission to Eve is we're going to want to have some form of cooling. And that's definitely something that we'll do. There is no doubt about that one in my mind. But we're just going to be chilling up here, bleeding off horizontal speed for quite some time. We are now beginning to see some heating effects. I'm not sure what's overheating. I think it's the air brakes. I'm pretty sure it's the air brakes. But we'll see what this shallower re-entry goes with, and I'm going to wait for a little bit until we get the engine, or I'm going to wait a little bit for the engine to burn. Just utilizing the air brakes for now to bleed off speed. And we can see here that our horizontal speed is coming down quite dramatically. We are no longer in orbital mode. So that is wonderful. And we're going to burn this engine fairly soon here, I think. I just want to see what this looks like shallower. Or maybe we should let these burn off and then burn the engine. Maybe. I don't know what that would end up doing. I mean, we've got that heat shield there. I wonder if we jettisoned this in the atmosphere and had the drag here after these burned off. I wonder what that would do. That might work too. So I'm thinking about it. I'm going to let these burn off this time. I don't necessarily think this will work. I'm being clear here. I'm just trying stuff. Just experimenting. I have quite a few options at this point, and we're just going to let these burn. They are bleeding off a fair amount of speed, and that's fine. So we let these burn off, and then we burn the fuel. There goes 2, 3, and that last one's lasting a little while, but 4. Now we burn this off, we have a lot more delta V. Excellent. Getting ourselves our re-entry burn going here. I'm going to switch over into surface mode. At this point, they're largely identical, surface and orbit mode. But I'm going to switch over into surface retrograde. And this definitely does buy us a lot more delta V in this burn. But here's the next idea. We're going to, after this is done, decouple this and have these not be part of the craft. My expectation is that aerodynamic forces will keep the craft together, but that these will not transfer heat. And that our heat shield will be able to do its job. So we'll finish this off, this burn here. We have slowed down dramatically. So that's good. And let's see how this goes. Boom. Well, crap. Well, that's more like what I expected. Okay, we want this to be retrograde. The heat shield is kind of doing its job, I suppose. But that heat is getting way up there. I expected the drag to be a little bit different than what it ended up being, if I'm honest. So I don't think I should have decoupled. This is probably a failure because of that. Oh, yeah. Okay. That was very close to being a success, though. So we're going to physics warp this, and everything's just going to burn up except the heat shield. The heat shield will survive once again, and it will fall all the way to the ground. We're just going to warp this as quick as we can. I do wish that we could do it better, but alas, we cannot. So, that was better. That was definitely better. A couple of things that I think we can improve. First off, I think that the engine decouple did not help. I think that if we had left the engine on, it probably would have been better and used the engine as a pseudo heat shield. I think that if we had dialed back on the way down on the aero brakes, they may have lasted a little bit longer and then burn the engine after the aero brakes burn off. I do think that's the correct approach. And I think we can get this. I think we just have to find the correct order. Remember, none of this is simulated. We just have a lot of opportunities to do this, and we've already basically achieved our goals, so it's completely fine. The only goal that we have not achieved is the splashdown, and that's what we're hoping to get with one of these. But that's just going to be mostly luck if we happen to land in the correct place. Now, the other thing is that we did have highlands. And I'm pretty sure volcanic rock is highlands. But I want to hop back after this to the mission control and double check that. I'm fairly certain that Highlands is a place where you can find volcanic rock. So let's just continue plummeting through the atmosphere of Eve with our heat shield here. And I do think having active cooling would be, helpful. But again, we could potentially try going down on the night side. That may help. And is this... Where are we? Oh, we're over Highlands right now. Okay. I mean, we're not going to survive this impact. Boom. Fantastic. Okay. So let's head back at this point to the Space Center. I want to double check that Highlands is the correct biome. Or a correct biome. There are several options. But I want to double check that Highlands is one of those options. I believe it is. Let's see here. Highlands. Yes. Fantastic. Okay. And I want to try one final re-entry here this episode with what we've learned thus far. So we're going to go to the Eve probe launcher, which is... not you. Hang on. What is this? No, seriously. What is this? Oh, that's just the engine component. Okay, that's almost to the ground. And unfortunately, we can't leave this at this point. It's just going to tumble. That's fine. And then it will impact the ground. Maybe something survives here, and then we'd have a backup in case I accidentally cleared the debris or something. But, I mean, this section of the flight is already finished. We don't care about this. I just wanted to check, because this was marked as a probe. Anything survive? Yeah, actually. So now we've got a second one here that we could theoretically utilize. Wonderful. So we're going to head back to the tracking station. This was all completely according to plan. I'm just figuring out how exactly this atmosphere works. So I think that the biggest difference that we had there was how low into the atmosphere we were initially going. We were initially targeting a much higher point. And at this point, I'm going to deploy our center one. We'll undeploy those air brakes. I do wish that we could reroute this part. So we'll go ahead and... Whoa, decouple that. Okay, all is good. So we'll go ahead and flip this around to retrograde. We could try re-entering at night. I don't know how much we'll be able to see, but that's okay. Deploy angle at 100 degrees. And let's just set our periapsis to be something along the lines of that. A little bit higher this time. Not that. I want this decoupler to be up here. Okay. I want to hop back to our launcher here, which apparently... Ah, there we go. I want to hop back. Reason being, I want to make sure that that didn't change our trajectory to put us in the atmosphere, and it did not. Fantastic. And we want to be on surface retrograde for right now. So we are coming in a little bit higher. This time I want to reduce the air brake deploy angle as they get close to burning off. Essentially, I want to stay in the upper atmosphere, burning off velocity with the air brakes for as long as possible. Once the air brakes burn off, then we will fire the engine. We will not, I repeat, not be utilizing this decoupler. And in fact, I want to make sure that we are control from here. Okay. Good. Excellent. So let's go ahead and bring this on in. We want to be on surface retrograde. There we go. And we'll warp until we are entering the atmosphere. We're currently approaching our apoapsis. Actually, we're descending, so that's fine. Let's bring this on into the atmosphere. And swing it on back to retrograde. Perfect. So this time we're only dipping in about 3 kilometers rather than the 5 we were dipping in before. And I expect that this will still be enough to not have us bounce out. We're coming in on the night side this time. Although it's kind of close to the Terminator, we may end up crossing over. We'll have to see. It may or may not actually be night side, but I don't expect coming in day side or night side to be hugely impactful on this, in all honesty. So you can see that our periapsis has already dropped by over 1 kilometer. That's wonderful. And we are going to continue to bring this on in. We're actually decreasing in speed. So that's fantastic. I really do like to see that. And our deploy angle is going to drop to 90 pretty soon. I kind of feel like at 100 we would almost lose efficiency over 90, wouldn't we? I almost feel like that would be the most efficient at air braking us. We'll just put it at 90 for now, and then we'll drop it down to 70 once we start seeing thermometers. Like the moment we see the first thermometer, I'm going to drop it to 80, actually. So we need to drop it to 80 now. Excellent. When the second thermometer appears, we'll drop it to 70. Okay. We're still 87 kilometers up right now. We are bleeding off speed, but not tremendously quickly. Still looking good at 80. The other option, of course, would have been a big ol' heat shield like we have on the lander. Okay, time to drop this down to 70. Or some form of active cooling. That would also potentially help. Okay, we're definitely seeing it starting to glow. Dropping it to 60 because the fourth thermometer just appeared. We could also rotate it to be kind of like this. Yeah, that's okay. Rotating it does seem to help. Hello, son. Okay. Current height is 85 kilometers, so this is our original periapsis height. I'm going to rotate this a bit. Once they all start glowing, then we'll go down, I think, to 50 degrees. Just going to keep rotating this to try to keep the heat relatively evenly spread. I find it interesting that the ones going away from the planet are the ones that the heat is mostly transferring into. That's definitely interesting. But we're definitely bleeding a lot of speed at this point. It's not the most efficient, but it's working nicely. We should probably drop this down to 50 degrees at this point, because that heat is definitely building up. I'm going to continue to rotate it and try to get that heat percolated around nicely. There's also heat transferring in from these, I believe, which is something that we should definitely be a little concerned about. We're at about 83 kilometers currently. And we're continuing to drop speed, not tremendously quickly at this point. I'm going to bring this down to 40 degrees. Okay, I'm actually going to drop it even further, down to 20. Try to get this rotated to get the heat out of that one that was getting very close to burning off. Okay. It's looking okay. We are accelerating a little. I'm going to bring it up to 25. We're still accelerating a little bit here. We should have most of our horizontal speed at this point bled off, though. Try to get that rotated around. These are going to burn off eventually. Yep, as I said. They're going to burn off eventually. I'm going to bring them down to like 10 degrees. and we just let him go at this point. Okay. And now, we're going to try to burn off as much speed as we can with our engine. We're continuing to burn speed pretty quickly here. And that's great. Bringing it down to about 3 kilometers per second right now. We're just trying to bleed off as much speed as we possibly can. Under 3 kilometers per second. We have another 200 meters per second to burn here. We're down to 2.9 kilometers per second, another 120 meters per second in the tank. Starting to see some overheat here. And we are out of burn at this point right now. Okay. We're at 2.7 kilometers per second. I'm just letting this overheat build up a little bit. We're going to try to, like, ablate this off in a really awkward manner. Going to have to switch over very quickly, though. Because it's going to try to follow the engine, which is really awkward. Okay. Yeah, see, it tries to follow the engine rather than where the actual probe is, and then the probe loses attitude. And that's a problem we need to try to solve, but I'll try to do that next episode. As I said, we've already largely succeeded with these probes. Anything else that we get out of this is pure gravy, so that's great. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and I'll see you all next time.